Welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Tapas Ray. I teach at the English and Foreign Languages University, Hyderabad. I'll now be talking about the module on phrase structure grammar 3, which is part of the course on advanced syntax. In the previous modules, phrase structure grammar 1 and 2, we talked about the constituents of simple sentences. We saw how sentences are structured, how a simple sentence will have a noun phrase and a verb phrase. We also considered how phrases are structured, what are the constituents of a noun phrase or a verb phrase or an adverb phrase or an adjective phrase or a preposition phrase. We also try to formulate rules for them, rules for sentences, simple sentences, and also rules for various types of phrases. In this module, we are going to look at complex and compound sentences. Complex sentences where we have clauses as constituents of sentences, and compound sentences where we have coordinate structures. In sentence 1, we have two phrases, a noun phrase and a verb phrase. The noun phrase is they and the verb phrase is think. They are very clever. They are very clever is a clause, and we call it an S because we also use S for sentences. And since they are very clever is also like a sentence, therefore we use S. Like any other sentence or any other S, this clause can have a noun phrase and a verb phrase. So in the tree in 2, you can see that the clause they are very clever, it has been divided into two parts, a noun phrase and a verb phrase. So we have an S within an S. We have a complex sentence which we call an S. Within that we have a clause, they are very clever, which is also considered to be an S. Since it is a clause and a clause is like a sentence, we have decided to use the symbol S for a clause. And we can have a rule like 3 for the sentence we talked about, where the VP will have an ox and V, then an S. S is they are clever. Now let us look at other sentences where we have different kinds of complement clauses. For example, in 4 we have they think that they are very clever. Here, that they are very clever is a complement clause where we say that is a complementizer. Now look at the diagram 6. Here we have a tree diagram for the sentence they think that they are very clever, and we have already decided to call they are very clever an S because it is a clause. Now if they are very clever is an S, what will be that they are very clever? What shall be that? Since that is a complementizer, we use the node comp for that, and we say that a comp plus an S will be an S bar. So a clause is an S, but if there is a complementizer before the clause, then it will be an S bar. So we have formulated two rules in 9A and B. The first rule is for the VP in 9. Here VP goes into ox, V and S bar. And then we have the rule in 9B for S bar. S bar consists of a comp which is a complementizer and an S. Now let us look at some other sentences. In 10, for example, we have the sentence, the participants who have submitted the assignments. This is a noun phrase. This, as you know, can be used as a subject of a sentence. Here in the noun phrase, we have a determiner which is the, and then the head noun participants, and then we have a clause which is who have submitted the assignments. This clause will have two parts, again a noun phrase and a verb phrase, and who is the subject of this clause. Now look at 11. This is a preposition phrase regarding whether she has submitted the assignments. Now here the head of the phrase is regarding, which is a preposition, which is followed by an S bar. Why is it an S bar and not an S? Because here we have a clause, she has submitted the assignments, and this is preceded by a complementizer whether. And we have decided that if there is a complementizer before the S, then the whole thing will be an S bar. In 12, we have an adjective phrase where we have a degree word before the adjective very. The adjective phrase is very worried that she might have done badly in the assignment. Here again we have an S bar after the adjective. Why is it an S bar? The same reason, because we have a complementizer before the clause she might have done badly in the assignment. That is a clause, so it is an S, and because it is preceded by a complementizer, we call the whole thing an S bar. We can formulate a set of rules for these three phrases. The noun phrase that we looked at had a determiner and noun and an S after that. The preposition phrase had a preposition and an S bar, and in 12b we have the rule for the adjective phrase where we have a degree word, then an adjective, and then an S bar. Now let us consider two more sentences, 13 and 14. The boy who helped you is Geeta's brother. The boy whom you helped is Geeta's brother. Let us now draw a tree for the first sentence. The boy who helped you is Geeta's brother. Here in the subject phrase, which is a noun phrase, we have the boy, which is followed by the clause who helped you. This clause is part of the subject noun phrase, and here who is the subject of the clause, and since this clause has only a noun phrase and a verb phrase, we say that this is an S. It is not an S bar because there is no complementizer in this clause. However, in the other sentence, the boy whom you helped is Geeta's brother. The subject noun phrase is the boy whom you helped. Here we also have a clause within the noun phrase, whom you helped. Here in this clause, you is the subject, and we have a WH phrase like whom before the subject, and therefore we say that this has to occur under the comp node. Because the subject node is already occupied, we must have another node where the WH phrase will occur, and therefore we have a comp node before the S. And since we have a comp node, which is the complementizer node, before the S, the whole thing is called an S bar. You might ask why in the previous sentence the clause within the noun phrase was considered to be an S, and why the clause in this noun phrase is considered to be an S bar. The reason is simple. Wherever you have only the subject and the verb phrase, a noun phrase and a verb phrase, and no complementizer before that or no WH phrase before that, then we say that it is an S. However, if there is a WH phrase or a complementizer before the subject, like we have whom in 14A, we say that it is an S bar. Let us now consider coordinate structures. Look at the sentence on the screen. Meena washed the dishes and Meera cooked dinner. In this sentence, we have a coordinator which is and here two clauses have been coordinated, and therefore the S at the top goes into two clauses, S and again S, and they are coordinated by the coordinator and we can formulate a rule like 2 where S goes into S, coordinator and S. Like clauses can be coordinated, phrases can also be coordinated. For example, in 3 we have she played the harmonium and sang. Here two verb phrases have been coordinated. In 4, he is very intelligent but very lazy. Here two adjective phrases have been coordinated, very intelligent but very lazy. And in the 5th sentence we have, do you want a pen or a pencil? As you can see here, two noun phrases have been coordinated. A pen is a noun phrase and a pencil is the other noun phrase. Now we have a tree diagram for the first verb phrase where two verb phrases have been coordinated, played the harmonium and sang. And in 4A we have a tree diagram for the adjective phrase where two adjective phrases have been coordinated, very intelligent but very lazy. Just one second. And in 5A, two noun phrases have been coordinated, a pen and a pencil. Sometimes words can be also coordinated. We saw clauses can be coordinated, phrases can be coordinated, even words can be coordinated. Consider, for example, 6 very old men and women. This is ambiguous. This has two meanings. One is very old men and very old women. The other meaning could be the men are very old but not the women. The first meaning is given in 1 and the second meaning is given in 2. We can have different types of diagrams to explain the ambiguity here. In 6A, we have very old as an adjective phrase and it modifies both the nouns men and women. Men, the noun has been coordinated with women and both are modified by the adjective phrase very old. So this gives us the meaning that both men and women are very old. However, in 6B, very old men is a separate noun phrase and it is coordinated with the other noun phrase women, and here very old, the adjective phrase only modifies men and does not modify women, and therefore this gives us the meaning men are very old but women are not. Now we will see how phrase structure rules are written. Let us consider this sentence in 1. The students met the teacher near the library. In 2, we have a tree diagram for the sentence. Here we say that the S is divided into two parts, noun phrase and verb phrase. The noun phrase has again two constituents, a determiner, which is an article, the, and N, students. And then within the VP we have an auxiliary, which is tense, but there is no other auxiliary verb. And then we have the main verb meet, which is followed by a noun phrase, which has again two constituents, an article, which is a determiner, the, and a noun, which is teacher. And then we have the preposition phrase near the library, where near is the preposition and the library is the noun phrase. The rules for this sentence will be something like 3, where we say that the S goes into noun phrase and verb phrase. The noun phrase goes into determiner and noun. The determiner is an article. The verb phrase goes into auxiliary, verb, noun phrase, and a preposition phrase. The auxiliary is tense and the preposition phrase is preposition and a noun phrase. The phrase structure rules give us an idea about how a sentence is organized. Both the tree diagram and the phrase structure rules do that. First of all, the tree diagram gives us the hierarchical organization of a sentence. Like here we have the S, which is divided into two constituents, noun phrase and verb phrase. As we said in a previous module, here we say that the noun phrase and the verb phrase, these are considered to be the daughter nodes of the S. So noun phrase is a daughter node of the S, and the verb phrase is the other daughter node of the S, and S is the mother node. Again, in noun phrase also, the subject noun phrase, we have two daughter nodes, that is determiner and a noun. In the verb phrase is the mother node, but it has daughter nodes like auxiliary, V, NP, and PP. The daughter nodes are considered to be the immediate constituents of a particular node. For example, the NP and the VP, they are the immediate constituents of the S. And similarly, the determiner and noun in the subject noun phrase are the immediate constituents of the noun phrase. Auxiliary, V, noun phrase, and preposition phrase, they are the immediate constituents of the VP. And we also have terms like terminal nodes and non-terminal nodes. Terminal nodes are those nodes under which lexical items like words occur. For example, in the noun phrase we have the article. Since we have a lexical item under the article here, the article is considered to be a terminal node. Similarly, the N in the noun phrase is considered to be a terminal node because under that we have the noun students. However, the noun phrase, the subject noun phrase, is not a terminal node because we do not have lexical items or words immediately below it. So the NP, the subject noun phrase, and the VP, they are non-terminal nodes because we do not have lexical items immediately below them. However, as we said, article is a terminal node here, N is a terminal node, N within the noun phrase, and the V is also a terminal node because below that we have the lexical item. V is also a terminal node because below that we have the lexical item meet. Similarly, the N in the NP and the N in the NP within the preposition phrase, are also terminal nodes because below them we have lexical items. The tree also gives us an idea about the linear organization of a sentence. For example, here we say that the subject noun phrase and the verb phrase, they are sister nodes. This we have already talked about in the first module. Or the determiner and noun under the subject noun phrase are also sister nodes. Now let us look at some more sentences. We'll try to draw trees for them and also formulate phrase structure rules. Sentence 4, Ruhi is a fan of Amir Khan. And sentence 5, she has seen all his films. And sentence 6, she writes to him regularly. Now we have a tree diagram for the sentence Ruhi is a fan of Amir Khan. Here we have the S divided into a noun phrase and a verb phrase, and the noun phrase has only a noun. However, the verb phrase has auxiliary V and noun phrase. Auxiliary is tense and V is be. And under the NP we have a determiner, noun and a preposition phrase. The determiner is an article which is a, and the noun is fan, and preposition phrase is of Amir Khan, where preposition of occurs and it is followed by a noun phrase Amir Khan. Here in 5A we have a tree diagram for the sentence she has seen all his films. And in 6A we have a tree diagram for the sentence she writes to him regularly. In 7 we have a set of rules for the 3 sentences for which we have drawn tree diagrams. In every sentence S goes into noun phrase and verb phrase, and then we look at all the noun phrases in these 3 sentences. We find that all the noun phrases have a noun, but not all of them have a predeterminer or a determiner or a preposition phrase, and therefore predeterminer, determiner and preposition phrase, they are in round brackets, but noun is not. Now when you formulate a rule for the determiner, we find that we have 2 kinds of determiners here, either an article or an possessive, and therefore we put them in curly brackets. Now when we look at the verb phrase, we find that in all cases the verb phrase has an aux and a V, which is followed by either a noun phrase or a preposition phrase and adverb phrase. Since we can have noun phrase or preposition phrase and adverb phrase as alternatives, we have put them in curly brackets. Then aux is expanded into tense and perfective because we have only perfective here in these 3 sentences, and perfective is within round brackets because we do not have perfective in all the 3 sentences. The preposition phrase that we have in these sentences has a preposition and noun phrase, and the adverb phrase has only an adverb. So this is a set of rules for the 3 sentences that we looked at. Now the question is, why do we formulate rules? If we formulate rules for a particular language, the rules will tell us how the sentences are constructed in that particular language. What are the patterns in which the sentences are constructed? What are the obligatory constraints? What are the optional constraints? And therefore, we always try to analyze sentences, and also we write rules for the sentences that we have analyzed. In this module, we looked at clausal constraints and coordinate structures. We drew tree diagrams and also tried to formulate phrase structure rules for these structures. These rules tell us how sentences are made, how phrases make a sentence or a clause, and how words make a phrase. They also give us an idea about syntactic patterns of phrases and sentences in a language. So in these three modules, phrase structure grammar 1, 2 and 3, we have learned how to analyze simple, complex and compound sentences, and how to draw tree diagrams for them, and also how to write phrase structure rules for a given set of sentences. For more information about this, you can visit EPG Pathshala website. Thank you.